Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show here on True Life News. We got some big news. House Speaker Mike Johnson may be growing a backbone, everybody. Him and Republicans in the lower chambers are reviewing tools right now available to them to take on activist judges that are targeting Trump's executive orders. One of the biggest things that they see is that there is a growing resistance. So they said we have to do something now and set the precedence that federal judicial district judges cannot control the White House, because there is more and more lawsuits that are coming up against Trump every single day. They said the activist judges with political agendas pose a significant threat to the rule of law, equal justice, and the separation of powers. The Speaker looks forward to working with the Judiciary Committee as they review all available options under the Constitution to address the urgent matter. So guys, this is making me happy. I'm glad to see that they're actually doing something about it, but there's a big thing in talking the talk and walking the walk, because this is not going to end. I've got things to show you that these Democrat activist judges are coming for Trump. What we've seen now is just a taste of what's coming, and it's going to get bad, everybody. And I hate to say this, it's just like Trump is moving in such a great direction, but they're going to do a lot of things to try to stop him. But again, too, remember, Trump's moving because now that Trump has signed the executive order to essentially dismantle the Department of Education, this is affecting a lot of people's money, guys. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars that comes out of the Department of Education. Now remember, we don't do a good job of keeping accountability where things go. There's schools that get a ton of money. But with that, there's a lot of bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that are extremely upset, and they are throwing a fit over this. And again, too, what does it always go back to? It goes back to the policies. The Democratic policies right now, they aren't doing so well, and now they're getting exposed. But we also have, again, this is where no matter what, I'm able to bring you like some crazy news every day because the digging is constantly happening. Check this out. New documents expose a massive government-backed censorship operation that was orchestrated by USAID. This and the Global Engagement Center and the UK government and media firms work to manipulate public perception and to try to silence Americans in other countries expressing their free speech and expressing what's going on in America. So they have been working our own taxpayer dollars to fund money in other countries to censor and only show one side of the story. What does that sound like? Communist China, right? This is how bad it was, and this is what just got exposed. I got all the receipts, guys. We got a ton of breaking news. Want to say thank you to everybody that's watching, to all of our subscribers, all of our viewers, guys. Y'all are the best. Thank you to all of our members. We appreciate you so much. And to everybody that gives a super chat donation. We're so excited. In just 2 days, we're going to be doing our online donation, guys, and I'm so excited that we get to look forward to this every single month of giving back with your support and help on this channel to charities. And want to say, if you don't mind doing us a big favor of hitting that thumbs up like button, we really do appreciate it, guys. It helps out so much with our channel. But we've got a ton of breaking news to get into, especially when it comes with how these Democratic cities are moving and going, because they keep saying it, guys, but there's some type of internal civil war that's coming into place. Check this out.
Why are Democrat-run cities such a dumpster fire of epic proportions? Instead of being known for the Golden Gate Bridge, places like San Francisco feature a poop map and drug-ridden homeless encampments on every corner. Now, a pair of left-wing journalists are trying to figure out why blue cities are spiraling, and even they admit liberals can't just blame Trump.
It is often our own side whose obsession with process is getting in the way of outcomes.
5 states that homelessness is highest, including Hawaii, California, Oregon. They're all governed by Democrats. That's not Donald Trump's fault.
Katie, would you agree with Klein and Thompson there that their assertion that blue states are losing not because of Trump, but because of their progressive politics?
Yes, and because of corruption, and because there's more regulation on building a business or putting a fence in your yard than there is on people pooping in the street or building their tent cities. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is when you're in these places, you're not comfortable, you're certainly not having fun, and it's not a place that people feel like they want to spend their money, their time, not to mention raise their kids and have a family. So it's pretty basic when it comes to focusing on things that work, government that works, and not harassing people who are following the rules or allowing people to just break all the rules around you and feel unsafe.
And, Jesse, they're saying that when you focus on this progressive stuff, what you're not dealing with real outcomes and real people. And is there any way to be a progressive and run a city and somehow balance that progressive liberal stuff and have a successful city?
Well, not anymore. Right now, they don't like civilization. They want to tear it down. They think all this stuff we're building's bad for the environment. They want to give the land back to the Native Americans. And, Judge, if there's an endangered species like a snail, no progress at all. Everything has to come to a halt. Didn't used to be like this. Remember when, maybe you call them the good old days, you have these politicians that were more patrician, and they were very successful individuals, and they would be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll be a public servant. I'll serve the public instead of today where they just serve themselves. And then they'd appoint all of their successful friends in the administration, and you'd actually have good services and you could build things. Now, it's like some moron mayor appoints like some even dumber guy to be in the cabinet because like that moron helped them win Queens. It's a patronage mill, and no one has any skills, and they just steal all the money. Also, lastly, Judge, it's the lawyer's fault. And I have to tell you right to your face, there's so many liberal special interest groups, and now all the groups have their own lawyers. So if anything wants to get done, you have about 1,000 lawyers come in and sue, and just nothing happens.
Greg, when you think about Gavin Newsom in California, I mean, there's so much of California that's absurd, like the Tenderloin District and all of those areas. They have the highest homelessness. By the way, they have the biggest poverty level in the country in California. Gavin Newsom's not stupid. Why doesn't he just look at Florida and say, if I change this, I can be as popular as Ron DeSantis?
He's not doing his job. Look, the conclusion is pretty outrageous that these guys.
What's so sad, everybody, is that literally California is the 5th or 6th largest GDP in the world. They have so much going for them, but these policies are destroying one of our greatest states because they keep trying to appease the minority, the 0.1%, the 0.2% of people, and they're making everybody miserable. And that's why I'm super glad that there are some people that I know, like Grant Cardone, who are going to be running for governor, that hopefully they can get under new management. But it's not just them, it's all of our big cities, New York, Chicago, all these, that we need to make sure put American people first and stop trying to appease the minority.
Guys came up with left-wing cities suck because they're run by left-wingers. That's exactly what they said. Suddenly the media has discovered cause and effect, that the incentivizing of crime and corruption leads to crime and corruption. And all of this misery has been enabled by the hijacking of compassion, sanctuary cities, homelessness, no cash bail. They exist because anytime you oppose it, you are called as hateful. And then if you get into power and you try to solve it, what do? They go after your methods. This guy's even pointed out, he said, our obsession with process gets in the way of outcomes. What did we see with the deportations? Everybody's going, oh, I'm against rapists and killers, but this process, I'm not good with this process. Well, come up with one, you dirtbags. The other thing is, and I know you'll agree with me, Judge, the broken windows theory, okay? This was never debunked, but they allowed that narrative to take place based on one faulty study, when the reality is we live in the broken windows theory every day. The reason why I don't come to the 5 in sandals and a Speedo, even if I wanted to, it lowers standards. And lowering standards lowers standards more.
Exactly.
Also, the women wouldn't handle my sexy feet. But we establish criteria at work and at home base level behavior. We don't leave dirty dishes on our bed. We leave the toilet seat down, the dirty laundry's in the hamper and not on the floor. And suddenly we think that that does not apply to the street. Of course it does. We need to bring back the broken windows policing, and the sooner the better. And we need to debunk these ideas. Whoever came up with them, that it doesn't work. You don't even need research,
guys. And it is all boils down to common sense. We all boil down to common sense. The more common sense we institute into our government, the smaller it gets, the less money we waste. Because what I'm about to show you next, guys, it's just mind-blowing. But if you appreciate this content, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, yep, right there. Thank you so much, everybody. Speaker Johnson says that the GOP are looking at all available options to address activist judges. How can they impeach and judge? They have to have 67 votes. 2/3 majority in the Senate, and then in the House it has to be, I think, 2/3 majority. But this is, again, the activist judges are going to it's going to happen no matter what, because when you see these stats right here, it's all by design. It's all that they are targeting Trump like nobody's business. Think about this: federal injunctions since 1963. 12 during Obama's entire presidency, 64 against Trump in his first term, 14 against Biden in his entire presidency, and now 15 within less than just 2 months, 8 weeks into the job, he's already got 15. It's not going to stop. Johnson has to grow a backbone. Johnson has to do something, because now there's a lot of people, a lot of educated constitutional people that are now just telling Trump, forget the judges, just keep going and be in the mind of don't ask for permission, just ask for forgiveness. Listen to this.
You can't have these massive deficits because you're going to have inflation like the Weimar Republic if you don't take control. But part of that is downsizing the government. And Doge is out there in waste, fraud, and abuse, but there's also programmatic changes that can really take out big hunks. And I keep telling you take it out by programs and you take it out by billets. It's not just individual people. You got to get rid of the billets and the programs. Here's what I think, and on TV, on MSNBC, they're blowing us up. Walk our audience through, in the unitary executive theory, why President Trump can sign an executive order and therefore take a cabinet that was set up, a department that was set up as a cabinet official, 50 years ago, 40-some years ago, and just with the stroke of a pen, get rid of it, sir.
Well, first, it's not the unitary executive theory because we're not liberals. It's Article 2 of the Constitution, and the president has the executive power, and under the executive power, he has a duty to take care that our laws are faithfully executed. That includes rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. So if there is something created by statute, like if there's a department created by statutes, the president can't just eliminate, he can't just overturn that congressional statute. But that doesn't mean that we have to have 75,000 employees at a department. We can cut down the offices that are not created by statute. We can cut it down to size. And so you're going to see President Trump do that on a lot of these departments and agencies, is that, there might be a department created by statute, but that doesn't mean it has to have so much bloat. So you can cut it back just because the president has discretion as the chief executive officer to manage these departments that are set up by statute. And if he doesn't think he needs 75,000 employees, if he thinks he can do his statutory duty and faithfully carry out these laws with 500 employees instead of 75,000, he can do that as long as there's not a statutory preclusion.
Okay. Hang on. So whether it's USAID or Voice of America and all these other grantees at Voice of America, or all these grantees that tens of billions of dollars at DOE, those are all kinds of, you take it basically down to the deck plates, to the statutory minimum, right, that you're fulfilling that function, and maybe over some part of time, Congress gets around that, but you take it down to the statutory minimum. and you continue to function that way. And in these types of things that you're looking at, you cut out programmatically 90% of the cost, roughly, something like that. Is that the theory of how it's going to work?
It sounds like it is. And so you're going to have Elon Musk and Doge and these agency heads as the wrecking ball. And then the agency heads will work with Russ Vought to clean up the mess. And look, you see these mass layoffs in Washington, D.C. Has any real American and real America felt any pain from this? Is anyone losing any sleep or not getting dinner on the table because we're not funding transgender mice in Botswana or wherever the hell we're funding this stuff? I mean, that's the issue, is that these government programs are slush funds for the uniparty elite in Washington, D.C. It takes money from real Americans in real America, driving up the cost with inflation, driving up interest rates, so we can make people in Washington, D.C. fat and happy. We saw this during recessions. We saw this during COVID. America was struggling during these recessions, but what did they do in Washington, D.C.? They just keep printing more money, and they get fat and happy when the rest of America, real Americans and real America, suffer. So it's time that we put Washington, D.C. on a crash diet, and Elon Musk is doing that.
Let's go.
Now, give your call to action. You're very serious as the viceroy that this guy needs to be impeached. We need to go through the process, and people shouldn't worry whether in a trial in the Senate he's going to be removed. It's the trust the process. So where do people go? How they find out more about it? How?
Well, first, it's not the unitary executive theory because we're not liberals. It's Article 2 of the Constitution, and the president has the executive power. And under the executive power, he has a duty to take care that our laws are faithfully executed. That includes rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. So if there is something created by statute, like if there's a department created by statutes.
Guys, let me tell you this, that if everything that we're looking at right now, when he says, I'm going to, take it down, just like you just heard them, what he is doing is dismantling it to its lowest common, just as the least amount of people. You could have one person essentially in the Department of Education running the Department of Education. But instead of us spending, billions of dollars to run it, we may spend $100 million. So he exponentially is changing it in the most positive way, and that's what Trump is. That's like what Trump is trying to get done with a lot of these agencies. So when you hear the news like he's, getting rid of it, he's getting rid of it in a sense, but at the same time too, he's still not breaking the law, which is super important. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. He said the liberal education system wants to put machines in kindergarten bathrooms. Parents need to get involved in these schools to stop this 100%. Y'all show Andy some love in the chat, because again too, now that we know that Mike Johnson is working with the House Judiciary Committee, so who's ahead of that? It's Jim Jordan, that we're hopefully going to see some things happen. Check this out.
Jim Jordan of the great state of Ohio. Mr. Jordan, welcome back as always. So, talking to Laura Ingraham, who interviewed President Trump and so forth about the rogue judges in the House.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I put so you see that you just heard that video, right? It doesn't sound good. That's not good quality. Now listen to this.
Jim Jordan of the great state of Ohio. Mr. Jordan, welcome back as always. So, talking to Laura Ingraham, who interviewed President Trump and so forth about the rogue judges. In the House, I know there's been one member's talking about impeachment. I just want to get your take on potential impeachment or holding hearings, or what do you want to do about these rogue judges?
Well, normally the course of action, of course, is if you got a bad decision from a judge, you got the appellate courts and you appeal. But I do think in this one case with Judge Boasberg, this guy who told, think about it, Larry, this judge said, turn the plane around, bring back the hardened gang member criminals who've done terrible things, who are in the country illegally, bring him back to the United States. Maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So you start to think maybe this judge, particularly with this judge's history with the FISA court, giving the warrants to go spy on President Trump's campaign, the slap on the wrist he gave Kevin Kleinsmith, the lawyer who altered documents, you start to think maybe this judge is acting in a political fashion. So I think that's a little different animal. And so for us, I think all options are on the table, and we're gonna have some hearings, dig into this whole issue, and see what we need to do.
Jim, do you have the authority to actually call a federal district judge to testify before your committee?
Yeah, we could do that. He could say no. Then you're tied up in court. There's all those things. But we do think hearings to get into what's going on. Not just this judge, but remember, there have been 15 times where a federal district judge has issued some kind of injunction that applies nationwide. We actually passed legislation 2 weeks ago in the Judiciary Committee, passed a bill that said if a judge makes these kind of decisions, they only should apply to the parties of the case in that respective jurisdiction. Right. So we passed that through the committee. We think that we hopefully going to go to the House floor and we'll get that bill moving. So we're nervous about the whole thing. But as Chief Justice Roberts said, normally you don't impeach judges. You have the appellate process, the appellate courts. You go to the next step. But in the case with Judge Boasberg, it sure looks like this is being done for political reasons, and maybe just political reason. That's a different question.
It sure does. And these national injunctions have got to stop. They're just crazy. Anyway, Jim Jordan, thank you, baby.
Y'all see that, guys? I'm telling you, it is so mind-blowing. We've never seen what's happening where you literally have one judge who normally, it's a district judge, so they're in charge of a district, who is literally making decisions for the entire country. This makes no sense whatsoever, but I got good news for you guys because, again, remember Trump's dream team. Super important that I want to make sure that you're informed that every single one of them is kicking butt right now. Even though you may not hear it on the mainstream media, we're still pulling in that they're doing great, great things for America, just like this. Whoops.
We're back with another quick update on our efforts to cut wasteful spending and cut it quickly at the Department of Defense so we get the dollars to the things that the warfighters need. So today, I'm signing a memo directing the termination of over $580 million in DoD contracts and grants that do not match the priorities of this president or this department. In other words, they are not a good use of taxpayer dollars. Ultimately, that's who funds us. We owe you transparency and making sure we're using it well. So here's quickly what we're canceling today. There's an HR software effort that was supposed to take a year and cost $36 million, but instead it's taken 8 years and is currently $280 million over budget, not delivering what it was supposed to. So that's 780% over budget. We're not doing that anymore. Number two, another batch of DoD grants. 300.
Guys, if y'all appreciate this, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, this right here is transparency. This is the stuff they don't tell you. They were supposed to get it done in 1 year and spend $36 million. It took them 8 years, $280 million. That is 100% waste, but you never hear about it unless you have people like this exposing it.
$160 million worth this time. Decarbonizing emissions from Navy ships, part of the Obama-Biden green agenda, that's $6 million. $5.2 million on something that would diversify and engage the Navy by engaging underrepresented BIPOC students and scholars. Another $9 million at a university to approach equitable AI and machine learning models. I need lethal machine learning models, not equitable machine learning models.
Ooh.
And number three, in our ongoing effort to cut wasteful spending on external consulting services, $30 million in contracts with Gartner and McKinsey. It's IT, purchasing, unused licenses. So when you add it all up, $580 million in DoD contracts and grants, Doge is helping us cut today.
Let's go.
What does that bring our total number up? Total cuts, running total, $800 million in wasteful spending canceled over the first few weeks as DoD partners with Doge here to make sure that our warfighters have what they need by cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse. They're working hard. We're working hard with them. We appreciate the work that they're doing, And we have a lot more coming, so stay tuned. So might as well not waste any more time right now. Just sign this thing. How about
Let's
that? So
go.
this makes it official. We're going to keep going for you guys.
Guys, is this not transparent? Like, guys, I want to jump up and down. I literally want to stand up and jump up and down because I'm so excited. We've never had this level of transparency from the Department of Defense. They messed up on this. They overspent on this. We're cutting it out. We're going to save American tax dollars. We're going to put America first. We're stopping all the wasteful abuse of the American taxpayer dollars, and we're going to give it back to them. That's what this is all about. And what I love is what you're about to see next, guys, because every step is doing what? It's putting more power back into we, the people. Check this out.
Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, you said earlier this week that dismantling the Department of Education would usher in a new era of American educational excellence. How so?
Well, think about what we've had to deal with in Florida. So 4 years ago, we led on the issue of women's sports, as we typically lead. So we said we're going to protect women's sports. The Biden administration, through their Department of Education, responded by threatening to take away school lunch money for poor kids. Nice. And so what this bureaucracy has done over the years, they try to get involved in fashioning education policies in ways that the Constitution never intended. So let us make the decisions on education. We're obviously going to approach it much different in Florida than California. I mean, we have universal school choice. We have paycheck protection for teacher union dues, and many of our unions are now being decertified because a lot of teachers don't want to write the check. We also don't have woke in our curriculum. We do civics. We do a lot of different things, and it's proven to be successful.
But you were able to do that with the Department of Education in existence, so aren't you making a point that contradicts the need to do much with it?
What they want to do is they want to attach different strings to money. And a lot of that money doesn't even go to the state. It goes directly to school districts. And so they will be working with school districts, sometimes liberal school districts, against state policy. So we're having to do all these fights for no reason. Take the money, and the president made the point today, you can do a fraction of the money, send it to us. The dollars will go farther because we're cutting out the bureaucracy.
Randy Weingarten, good friend of yours, teachers union chief, was poo-pooing this idea that the Department of Education controls the states. Watch.
It doesn't control any schools. In fact, it's the states that control schools. So if President Trump doesn't like what's happening in education, it's the states and local school boards that do it.
At least she got her hair done. What of that?
Well, you've been around, you understand. When you are sending money, you condition the money to certain behavior. Now, we fought against that in Florida, but we also have the wherewithal to do it because our economy's grown 30%
Booming.
Just since I've been governor. We've got a big surplus, but not every state is in that situation. And whatever they've done thus far, which has been intrusive, they will do more in the future. And so we know this just hasn't worked. Send the money to the states. Let us make the decisions.
Congress is going to ultimately have to take the step, yes, to really shut it down.
I think what President Trump can do is I think he can, from the inside, neuter the organization. But it will not be wiped off the statute books by an executive order. That has got to come from the Congress. First, let's give President Trump credit. We've been talking about for 40 years, Republicans.
Since I was at the Department of Education.
Getting rid of it, and it's never happened. This is the biggest step by far. But the congressmen all run saying you can't win a Republican primary in this country as a Republican saying you want to keep the Department of Education.
So it should be a no-brainer.
And so why aren't they voting to codify? But this is like so many other things President Trump's done. They're not codifying his immigration executive orders. They're not codifying these things. So while this is good policy in the instant, we want it to stand the test of time. Congress has to be the ones to do that.
Will they?
Yes.
Do you think?
If history is any judge, probably not. I mean, we're talking about the courts. The court's as good as anyone.
Limit the jurisdiction.
Congress can limit the jurisdiction of the courts. That is plain in the Constitution. It doesn't require 67 votes in the Senate. You can attach it to a CR. You can attach it to a must-pass bill. And here's the thing. If somehow you tried to do that and maybe it just didn't work, then I think our voters would at least understand. They're not even trying any of this stuff.
It's infuriating.
We knew these leftists.
Guys, exactly what you just heard there. Codify. This is where I would love to see Ron DeSantis as like leader of the House, or even leader of the Senate, because he gets things done. I know he wants to run for president next, which I'm totally approve of. He's kicked butt in Florida, and we'd love to see that across America. Remember, their economy has grown by 30%. They're in a surplus in Florida because of his policies. Now we need that across America, but you just heard him. We have to put the right people for an extended period of time in Congress so that we actually get things that stay there forever.
Judges were going to do what they're doing. Everybody predicted that. President Trump knew that. This was one where the Congress is basically, and what are they? They're on 2 weeks of vacation now. Really? That must be nice.
Yeah.
I think they got a lot of work to do.
Most of them are in your state of Florida vacationing. Governor, hey, great to see you.
Yeah, and if y'all didn't know that, essentially Congress is on vacation. We're in the middle of, Trump wants a budget reconciliation bill, and Congress takes vacation. Oh, but it's scheduled. It doesn't matter. Do y'all realize that the average American works about 242 days out of the year? Average person, that's with 2 weeks vacation. You know how many days that Congress works? They work about 170. Yeah. Talk about they make a ton of money, $170,000, $180,000, and they work that much less. Why do you think they all want to be, these people want to be congressmen and women? Thank you so much, Scott Matthews, for the super chat. Repping out of Newport Beach, Cali. Let's go. Y'all show Scott some love in the chat. And guys, right here, this is the newest report from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. When Trump says something, promises made, promises kept. Look at the change. 2021, Biden. 2022, Biden. 2023, Biden. 2024, Biden. We were on an upward trajectory of allowing as many people as we could into the United States. Trump comes in, it literally downfall. Why? Because he did what he was supposed to do. Protect the United States, stop the invasion, and he's doing even more. And what I love is that he's barely getting started. Check this out.
Also signed an executive order to dramatically increase production of critical minerals and rare earths. It's a big thing in this country. And as you know, we're also signing agreements in various locations to unlock rare earths and minerals and lots of other things all over the world. But in particular, Ukraine, we're doing very well with regard to Ukraine and Russia. And one of the things we are doing is signing a deal very shortly with respect to rare earths with Ukraine, which they have tremendous value in rare earth, and we appreciate that. And we spoke yesterday with, as you know, President Putin and President Zelensky, and we would love to see that come to an end, and I think we're doing pretty well in that regard. So hopefully we could save thousands of people a week from dying. That's what it's all about. They're dying so unnecessarily, and I believe we'll get it done. We'll see what happens, but I believe we'll get it done. Today we take a very historic action that was 45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Let's go.
And it sounds strange, doesn't it? Department of Education.
Guys, if you appreciate this, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, they've been, like he said, for the past 45 years, every Republican said that they wanted to do what? Take down the Department of Education. Nobody's doing it but Trump.
We're going to eliminate it, and everybody knows it's right. And the Democrats know it's right, and I hope they're going to be voting for it because ultimately it may come before them. But everybody knows it's right, and we have to get our children educated. We're not doing well with the world of education in this country, and we haven't for a long time. And we're pleased to be joined today by the woman who I chose because she's an extraordinary person. And hopefully she will be our last Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. Linda, thank you. Thank you very much. That's another interesting statement. It's an interesting opening, right? but it's true. And it's been amazing how popular this has been. I tell people that this is what I'm doing today, and they say, oh, it's about time. Everybody says it. Republicans and Democrats have said it. They're all saying it. Also with us are some terrific people. Governors Greg Abbott. Greg, thank you very much. Governor Ron DeSantis, thank you very much, Ron. Mike Braun, congratulations on your victory, Mike. That was a big one. Mike DeWine, thank you very much, Mike. Jeff Landry. Jeff, thank you very much, Jeff. Bill Lee, thank you. Governors, all governors. Brad Little. Brad, thank you very much. Where are you, Brad? Hi, Brad. Jim Pilan, thank you very much, Jim. And Kim Reynolds. These are all people very interested in education. And I even see Dan Patrick over there, my friend Dan Patrick. We're joined also by Representatives Tim Walberg and Virginia Fox, Rick Allen, Michael Rulli, and again, Dan Patrick, thank you very much, Dan. You've been a great friend of ours. And State Attorneys General Ken Paxton. Ken, I see you there. Andrew Bailey. Andrew, what a job you've done, Andrew. You have some good cases going. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. And co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tiffany Justice. She's been a hard worker. Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. When President Carter created the Federal Education Department in 1979, it was opposed by members of his own cabinet, as well as the American Federation of Teachers, the New York Times editorial board, and the famed Democrat Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. History has proven them right, absolutely right. After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success. It's an amazing stat. Those are two stats you don't want. The most money spent per pupil, and you're at the bottom of the list. And that's where we are, like it or not. And we've been there for a long time. 70% of eighth graders are not proficient in either reading or in math. 70%.
Wow.
40% of fourth graders lack even basic reading skills, can't read. Students in our public elementary and middle schools score worse in reading today than when the department opened, by a lot. In Baltimore, 40% of the high schools have 0 students who can do basic mathematics. Not even the very simplest of mathematics. I said, give me your definition of basic. And they're talking about like adding a few numbers together. Despite these breathtaking failures, the department's discretionary budget has exploded by 600% in a very short period of time, and it employs bureaucrats in buildings all over Washington, D.C. And as a former real estate person, I will tell you, I ride through the streets of Washington and it says Department of Education, Department of Education. I said, how do you fill those buildings? It's crazy what's happened over the years. I'm pleased to report that after offering these federal employees 2 generous buyout options, and they were very generous, and they're good people, but they were very generous. My administration has initiated a reduction in force, and we're already cutting numbers that were really surprising to a lot, that we were able to do it so successfully. And we've cut the number of bureaucrats in half. 50% have taken office, which is great.
Look at that, guys. Again, what was the purpose of it? What was the point? Cut the unelected bureaucrats who are getting paid. I'm talking about salaries of upwards of $600,000. That's how big these salaries are of these unelected bureaucrats. Cut them out, give that money back to the states, and allow them to do what they need to do. Because if you don't, guys, I'm telling you, like, whatever this may mean, what I'm about to show you next, whatever it may mean, I don't understand it. I feel like it's not right. They're saying things that, to me, is like inciting violence. Let me know your thoughts. But want to say thank you so much, Surgical Wizard, for the super chat. Let's go. He said, now since Trump is eliminating the federal income tax, would it be the same for the state income tax? Nope. The state income tax is based upon the state. But great states like Florida, Texas, Tennessee don't have it. But it would only be just for at the federal level. But thank you so much, KME Multiplex, for the super chat. Let's go. Said the Department of Education is unconstitutional, 100%. And what you're about to hear next from Chuck Schumer, let me know what you think, because to me it sounds too borderline inciting violence for some crazy stuff. Check this out.
We are mobilizing in New York. We have people going to the Republican districts and going after these Republicans who are voting for this and forcing them to either change their vote or face the consequences. This is a
either change your vote or face the consequences. Consequences of what?
Long, relentless fight that we fight every day, and I am confident that we will bring Trump's popularity, numbers, and strength down if we keep at it and keep at it and keep at it.
I mean, let me know what your thoughts are, but like hearing them say like we're gonna come after you in these districts and do what? Like you're talking crazy. Thank you so much, Mr. Norby, for the super chat. Let's go. He said, at your life, brother, still no word on gifting memberships. Can you make this work for me? Gifting to new members, brother. Love y'all. Guys, love Mr. Norby. Y'all show him some love in the chat. Yep, I will be reaching back out to them to see. Haven't heard back from them, but I'll reach out again. Appreciate you, Mr. Norby. Y'all check this out.
Washington's been all talk, no action, and politicians from both sides of the aisle have made promises and never delivered. They told us they'd control the border, never did. Move the embassy to Jerusalem, never did. Abolish the Department of Education, never did.
And I will tell you, it's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there?
The government shouldn't be in the middle of everything, and we certainly don't need a federal Department of Education.
We propose to dismantle 2 cabinet departments, energy and education. There's only one way to shrink the size and cost of big government, and that is by eliminating agencies that are not needed and are getting in the way of a solution.
Well, Trump just did it with a stroke of a Sharpie.
I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all. We're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs, and this is a very popular thing to do, but much more importantly, it's a common sense thing to do, and it's going to work. I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country. And we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter.
47's tearing down another pillar of liberalism. The Department of Education was started under Jimmy Carter, and it was supposed to make our kids smarter. 4 decades later, it's failed.
Caroline, what do you say to critics of the president's education plan?
Where was their criticism of our nation's failing test scores for the last several decades? The Department of Education was founded in the 1970s, and since then we have spent more than $3 trillion at this federal bureaucracy. What has been the return on that investment for the American taxpayer? Levels that are less than ideal, less than proficient. Our children's test scores are incredibly concerning when it comes to reading rates, literacy rates, math, and science test scores. The numbers prove that.
We're spending $250 billion a year, and as Bush said, is our children learning? We're spending more money than we did in the 70s, but reading scores are lower now than they were in the 70s. 1/3 of America's students can barely read. 8th grade reading just hit its lowest level ever.
Guys, and you know, when I hear this is the biggest difference of why politicians are the worst for government. Business people are good for government. Why? Because as a business person, when something doesn't work, you replace it. When you have a business and it's not producing the right results or it's not producing the right performance, you do something different. With the dang government, politicians think just throw more money at it because that's what's going to fix it, and it's all a big grift, and all it does is just hurt the taxpayer.
College kids can't pass simple civics exams. Want proof? Here's Johnny.
Who was the first president of the United States?
First president of the United States? That was...
Where is Ukraine?
Ukraine. Don't make me sound stupid.
It's in the world.
How's Kamala doing?
Kamala? I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who that is.
What happened on the first Thanksgiving?
The first Thanksgiving? The Pilgrims went on a bender. And then they ate turkey.
Kids can't read, write, or do math, but that's not stopping them from graduating. Teachers are just inflating grades to meet standards and passing them anyway.
Wow.
So the schools hit their numbers and keep getting paid. In Connecticut, a student is suing her school district for graduating her with honors, even though she was illiterate. I thought the Wolf of Washington cared about the kids.
When people ask me what are the three most important issues facing the Congress, from my whole time in Congress, I've always said the same thing. Our children, our children, our children. When people ask me what are the three most important issues facing the Congress, I always say the same thing. Our children, our children, our children. I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about the future, America's working families, for the children. It's always about the children.
Nancy Pelosi talks more about January 6th than reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, what have we done to fix this? We've filled public schools with more teachers just to inflate union dues. And the unions send those dues to Democrats. They shut down schools during COVID and said reopening them would be racist.
Today, state legislators released a revised plan in Senate Bill 86 to try to force schools to physically reopen. If you condition funding on the reopening of schools, that money will only go to white and wealthier schools that do not have the transmission rates that low-income Black and brown communities do. This is a recipe for propagating structural racism.
Wow.
And while the schools were closed, the teachers' unions stayed home and danced.
Oh, we gotta watch the music, guys.
Now, Randy's rewriting history.
COVID was a terrible time for us. And as you know, because I was on your show a lot and other shows, I wanted schools to be reopened as early as April of 2020. The issue was the fear and the issue was the safety issues. But COVID has really hurt in so many ways. But this has been a Republican talking point for a long time.
Well, Republicans have been talking about it because they heard what Randy said.
And if people are at high risk, they shouldn't be in school. They should be doing things remotely. Just because Donald Trump wants to take a risk with people who go to bars or beaches, those of us who have spent our life teaching kids are not going to take a risk with kids or with our members' lives.
Remote and hybrid are really the only two ways you can reopen schools safely.
The unions wanted to keep schools closed because they got hundreds of millions of dollars and they didn't have to go to work.
Wow.
What'd they do with the money? Well, they bought a few hand sanitizer stations and the rest of the money disappeared. A lot of it got embezzled. For them, it was about money and power.
NEA, we have to win all the things, all the things, all the things. Our colleagues are depending on us to win all the things. Keep going, NEA. To preserve our democracy, we must win all the things.
What things?
Delegates, we won't go back. We will keep going forward because we are the NEA. We are the NEA. We are the NEA.
Guys, let me tell you this. I done public speaking all my entire life. When somebody speaks like that, it's number one, they don't know what to say. They're overwhelmed by their emotions, and they don't know how to clearly articulate the message. They're on the hype. People are clapping, so they feel like they just got to keep talking and talk louder, and they're not really saying anything. These are the people that are running our education system. Wow.
The teachers' unions got stronger and the parents got shut out. Girls were getting raped in bathrooms by trans boys, and dads were getting arrested at school board meetings for calling it out. The Biden administration actually spied on parents who called out CRT in the classrooms, even though schools were getting caught red-handed.
What does the MAGA crowd or the church say when you start talking about social justice?
You teach it to a group of seniors at West Jordan High, and they don't. They talk to students about what is diversity, what is microaggressions, especially at the middle school level.
Or even middle school, do they get any social justice?
Yeah. In junior high, yes.
We have a very close partnership with Planned Parenthood, and they come speak in our district all the time.
Whenever our team goes out, we don't do an opt-out prior to. They just go out, meet the kids, work with them. We operate like a math department.
Teachers were getting body slammed over Nintendos. The Department of Education didn't protect them either. Now Trump is, whether they like it or not. One girl got her head bashed into concrete and was put in critical condition. Schools looked like fight clubs, and parents had no choice but to leave them in their crumbling schools because the unions and the big education people block charter schools. Meanwhile, DC politicians all send their sons and daughters to private schools, while kids in public schools are using old textbooks and technology. And then when they graduate, illiterate, they're told to get a college degree. So they go to some no-name college worth way too much money and get worthless degrees in communications. 4 years later, they're out of college, no job, and in debt.
Wow.
What do? We bail them out. Remember Joel? He finished grad school in '98, decided to become a professional musician. He doesn't make much money and chose to stop paying off his student loans. But thanks to Biden, Joel had his $250,000 of debt wiped. There are plenty of Joels out there. People who are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt with no job, living with their parents. This isn't what we're paying for. Our education system's broken. And it's been like that for a while. Here's Steve Jobs.
If you ask who are the customers of education, the customers are the parents. Not even the students, but the parents. The problem that we have in this country is that the customers went away. The customers stopped paying attention to their schools for the most part. Mothers started working, and they didn't have time to spend at PTA meetings and watching their kids' school. Schools became much more institutionalized, and parents spent less and less and less time involved in their kids' education. And what happens when a customer goes away and a monopoly gets control, which is what's happened in our country, is that the service level almost always goes down.
Always. Guys, that's one of the greatest tech geniuses of our lifetime, Steve Jobs. I got him. Wait. Yeah, right here. I got him right here. The same guy that said the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. We are seriously, guys, like the unveiling, the exposing of the corruption is literally on another level. It is mind-blowing. Even what I'm going to show you here on the screen, that America First Legal posted this. Explosive new documents expose a massive government-backed censorship operation orchestrated by USAID/taxpayers, the Global Engagement Center, the UK government, and the media firms to manipulate public discourse and silence Americans. Here's the receipts. This stuff is insane, guys. How much we have literally been manipulated. We've been just screwed over with our own money by our own politicians. And this is where we only know this because Trump is president. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. He said, liberals want to provoke a civil war with patriots. This is way their fight to protect their invading army. Criminal illegals from Trump. Something's coming. Y'all show Andy some love in the chat. But this is only getting exposed because of Trump. If Trump was not in there, we would have no idea, even including this. Again, like this. Oh my God, goodness gracious. How is it that things just keep, all the conspiracy theories, all this stuff, it's all connected. It's all by design. They know what they're doing. Kennedy was disrupting everything. And what did they do? They took him out. And it makes me like, because guys, I think about Trump. I think about Elon Musk. I pray these people stay protected because they've already tried twice. And it makes no sense. This is why I'm glad Bongino's back at the FBI. We got Kash Patel. We got Pam Bondi. But again, too, they need to be protected as much as possible. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. Thank you to all of our subscribers. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button. And thank you to everybody who supports the channel through sharing these videos. Guys, it means the world to us. Want to give some love to those who given some super chats tonight, guys. Thank you so much. Andy, Scott Matthews, Surgical Wizard, Kami Multiplex, Mr. Tracy J. Norby, John Reppy. Guys, let me tell you this, that we are a couple days away from doing our online donation giving to the charities. And I love it because when I get to tell people that we have such an amazing community, amazing members of this channel that give back, and it's like, this is like everything, like we're going to keep growing this, but this is something that I've dreamed about, is like, how do we get people to rally around and do good? And that's what we do on this channel. We bring you the truth, and we also give back to charities. And I thank you so much to everybody for your support. We love you all. Appreciate you so much. We'll see you in the next one.